Hello, hello. It is another Tuesday. We are back here on the Master Relationship Mechanic Show, talking about having your best relationship with God, self, and then others, making sure we get it in order, the right order, so that we can have our best relationships. Tonight, we are talking about our daddy issues. You know, when the absence of what we think we should have as a father's love, our expectations, or because what other people had, or what we felt like we were missing. We're talking about how do we deal with those daddy's issues so we can thrive in this world still. And it's not just about daddy's girls, it's talking about how do we deal with these issues. And we have a wonderful woman, Candace Greer, she has a group called Fatherless to Fearless. So we all gonna get to that place where we can be fearless and actually just drop the baggage and let things happen the way God designed them. Because that's what we have to understand. Everything happens by God's design. And saying that, that takes me to our scripture of the evening, and it is Colossians 3:13. So 3:13 is what I wanted you all to go with me. Colossians 3:13, and it says there, bear with each other and forgive whatever grievances you may have against one another. Forgive as the Lord has forgave you. And the actual title for the whole Colossians 3 is Rules for Holy Living. And the thing is, a lot of times in our holy living, we forget that we got to forgive other people because we want God to forgive us because we full of sin too. And whatever somebody did, it wasn't necessarily an offense against us. It was the best they knew what to do. And it might have been the best thing they could have did for us, not being there. Sometimes people don't understand the blessings of a person not being in your life actually was the blessing that God gave you. So be careful what you're holding on to, what you wish you had, what you're romanticizing about. The song tonight, I actually found a lot of songs because it is sad that we got all of these absentee parent songs about parents that aren't present. But the song that really spoke to me tonight was by Demi Lovato, and it's called Father. And it really speaks about that little girl crying out, but it's a forgiveness piece in there that you really have to hear in the lyrics to understand that is where we're trying to transition our minds to, so that we don't get stuck in that little girl place of hurt, and that we can grow up and be functioning adults and understand that our Heavenly Father is the most important connection that we need to keep intact and not get to the point where we're caught because a person didn't do what we expected to do. So let's listen to Demi Lovato, Father, and then we're going to hear from Candace Greer and hear about her wonderful book called The Invisible Dad. So y'all listen to the lyrics. Listen to the lyrics. Don't disappear on me. While y'all listening to the lyrics, y'all need to be clicking on share. Y'all need to be tagging people, however you all are watching this right now.
Fill up these seats in the front, and then anyone at the back, if you can fill up the next seats, that would be great.
Father, I want to say thank you, even if I'm still hurt. Oh, I want to say bless you. I want to mean those words. Always wished you the best. I prayed for your peace. Even if you started this whole war in me, you did your best, or did you? Sometimes I think I hate you. I'm sorry, Dad, for feeling this. I can't believe I'm saying it. I know you were a trouble man. I know you never got the chance to be say thank you, even if I don't understand. Oh, you left us alone. I guess that made me who I am. Always wished you the best. I prayed for your peace, even if you started this whole war in me. You did your best, or did you? Sometimes I think I hate you. I'm sorry, Dad, for feeling this. I can't believe I'm saying it. I know you were a troubled man. I know you never got the chance to be yourself, to be your best. I hope that heaven's given you.
All right, audience. I hope you all listened to the lyrics of the song. I mean, it was a fabulous video too for you all. She has her emotions in it, but the words were saying, I thank you. And a lot of times, like I was saying, we don't know how blessed we are because the person was actually not in our life. And so at that point, you just thank them from whatever and wherever you are right now. But the key in there, she said she was praying for him, praying for his peace, praying for his happiness, and praying for his second chance. Yes, he went on to be with the Lord. But the thing is, we have to learn how to forgive and move past before a person dies. Because sometimes we need to rebuild that relationship if they're still here with us and be able to deal with them. And the thing is, are we able to give them that second chance here on earth? Are we able to forgive? Yes, we can't make up what didn't happen, but can we move forward in that relationship is a question. So now let's talk to Candace Greer, because I'm interested in why did you write this book called The Invisible Dad? First, tell people who you are before we just jump right in.
Yeah, my name is Candace Greer, and I am a coach for fatherless women, and I'm also a speaker. And I wrote the book specifically because God told me to. It's hard for people to understand that, but honestly, I wouldn't have put my life story in a book had God not said, this is what you're going to do. I mean, ultimately, that book would be the love letter to the fatherless, and it would be the ending to my healing journey. So because out of obedience, I wrote that, it was like, love, Candace, the end, bam. So Invisible Dad is my heartfelt story of my life. I poured all out on paper. And for a long time, I had created this illusion of perfection. I didn't want anybody to know what was going on with me. I was dealing with fatherless wounds, but no one around me was fatherless. Even my friends had fathers, so they couldn't understand what I was going through. So instead of voicing the issues that I was having, I just decided to mask them. So my father, he left at the age of 2 years old. And so all throughout school, and you're seeing these fathers picking up these children, you're seeing them in the grocery store. I didn't quite understand why mine wasn't there. You know, why is my father not here? And by the time I reached a teenager, I was molested on a school bus. And I am now even more enraged, feeling guilty for what happened to me, even though it was not my fault. But in addition, blaming my father, like, why wasn't you there? You weren't there to protect me. By the time I would reach 16, 17, 18 years old, I was really trying to grasp my identity of who I was. And I was missing that important piece of the puzzle. I mean, at one point, me and my mom had a conversation about my father, and she said to me, you know, it's better that he's not here. But as a young girl, you don't want to hear it's better that he's not here. You don't want to to really have that justification that it's better that he's not here because you'll have a better life. No, I want my father, right? I want my father in my life. It's important for him to be here because he's a part of my foundation. I always say when it comes to your parents, they're your foundation. You have your father and your mother. And if your father is not there, you take away that portion of the foundation. It's like you're standing on one foot for the rest of your life. And so there's a lot of people going around right now that are balancing on that one foot. And that's where God comes into play, right? God is that undergirding, right? He's underneath. So you don't have to balance on one foot. But oftentimes we are left trying to figure it out on our own. And so what I have done is really mapped out the phases of what needs to occur when it comes to fatherlessness and getting over it, to being an overcomer. How do you really take the narrow road? Because trust me, it is a road less traveled. How do you take that narrow road of healing, that healing journey? Because healing, what healing does for you is really opens up
more wounds.
Every wound. It opens it all up. And when you open yourself up to God and say, heal me, he's going to reveal all the true damaged places that you have. So what you thought was okay is not okay anymore. That's why it's important to unlearn. You have to unlearn what you thought you knew in order to learn what you're supposed to be doing every single day. I mean, it was shocking what I felt like I had known. I felt like I had known men. I felt like I had adapted, like I'm going to just let them run all over me. I'm going to do whatever I can to feel accepted, to feel like I'm worthy, because I don't have a father telling me that I'm worthy. So these men will tell me that I'm worthy, and I'll do whatever I can to hear that from them. Understanding that I'm being trampled on. Like everything that my mother had taught me from a self-worth standpoint, I was willing to give that up in order to hear a man say, I love you. To hear that support.
You crave that so much that even though you knew better, you knew better. Like you said, you knew how to stand on that one leg. She had given you that strength. She had given you that love, but you were like, I'm gonna get this crippled leg. I'm gonna get a cane. I'm gonna get whatever I need that resembles what I think I'm missing in life.
Right.
And exactly. I think we do that, like you said, on the journey to healing, because we like to say, I'm good. I'm all right. We don't think we need any help because what we're doing, we think is healthy. Until a light bulb goes on and say, hey, why am I doing this? Why am I caught in this cycle? And really don't feel, and if this is love, this is what I'm getting is love, something is really bad. And I think this does not apply just to women. I think it applies to men too, who have daddy issues. And when I say that, because they're seeking love from brotherhood or from other men, and they do things to fit in with the men, which actually hurts them from having healthy relationships with women, because they do anything to run with the boy. Right. They do anything to have that, what they thought they missed as a child, being in those camaraderie groups around other men. And I'm not saying they falling in love with men or anything like that. That's not what I'm suggesting. But I'm suggesting they're needing that bond so much that they're messing up their relationships with their girlfriends, with their spouses, even their kids, because they're seeking to have that father figure so much that they're out there in the streets receiving information that necessarily is not good for their soul.
Right. So, I mean, a father figure is important. A father figure gives you that foundation. They give you that that encouragement, that direction, that guidance. Like you said, that camaraderie. There are almost 50% of children that live without a father. This is not something to overlook. It is a clear epidemic, and it is growing and growing. And what I say to the fatherless is that, yes, we've been abandoned. Yes, we've been hurt. Yes, we've been rejected. And you know what? You may be better. You may hate him. You may feel unworthy. But my plea to the fatherless is that we stand up in unity and support each other. It's not some type of epidemic that should be ignored. It's been ignored by society way too long. We know that 85%, over 85% of the people that are in jail right now are fatherless. We understand that that the students that drop out of school, 60-70% of them are fatherless. It is a problem. It's a problem here in America. It's a problem across the world. And so I take fatherlessness to heart. And my mission is to help people get through the healing journey, because ultimately, if you're healed, you can stop that generational curse. If you look at fatherlessness, it's really a generational curse. It's one father that didn't understand how to be a father, so they taught their daughter how to be abandoned by a man, and they taught their son how to abandon their children. And that's exactly what happened. And then it keeps going in a cycle, and then one after another. So it's up to us as the children that are fatherless children to stand up and say, no more. How do I fix this? And I'm going to take the steps to fix it, ultimately.
Well, I'm going to say something so it don't be man bashing. So it's just,
no.
So it's not just that men don't want to be there. Sometimes it's women who feel like they are independent and they don't need a man. And they don't need them in the house. All I needed was a donor, and I can handle the rest by myself. But the thing is, we have to understand in the Bible, it says when you have a man, you got covering. You got a covering.
Right.
When you don't have that covering, you're not just leaving yourself uncovered, you're leaving your kids uncovered. So it is a big piece of a house, of a home unit that is missing. And it is beautiful that we have bonus families. It is beautiful that people fill in those pieces. But like you say, it's a great number of people who have that disconnect for whatever reason it is. Some of it's because of death. I mean, of course, we can't control that. Some of it's actually because of imprisonment. Mm-hmm. Some of it's just because they're distant because they don't know how to repair that relationship. And I think that's important when we become an adult, not put out the olive branch, so that there is peace to bring back that closure. If that closure is wanted, if that relationship is wanted to be mended. And I mean, all you can do is put the branch out there and see if the communication happens. And I'm definitely not telling people to force a relationship with somebody, because then you're going back into that abusive relationship with another person to be trampled on, because you're trying to seek validation now from somebody who wasn't able to be a father then, and definitely isn't able to be a father to an adult person. So don't allow yourself to get caught up in, trying to get that validation as an adult. Mm-hmm. You have to just really reach that relationship as two adults trying to have a relationship. So what are some of the things in this book that helped you and were key when you were writing it to say, okay, this is what other people need. This is where the light went off. The light bulb went off in your head and you said, okay, this is what I needed to say. This is the healing point, the turnaround point for me.
Yeah. So in the book, Invisible Dad, I state phases that you need to go through to get through your healing journey. The first one was redemption. And redemption is understanding, of course, who Jesus Christ is for you. I've grown up in church since a very, very little girl. I was practically born in church. But here's the thing, that you can sit on those pews all day long. You can sit on those pews. But if you don't understand who Jesus Christ is for yourself, you will never be changed. I sat on those pews at the same time the night before. I would go drinking and get drunk and drive when I was in college. But yet on Sunday morning, I had enough sense to go to church and be on time and sit on those pews until God said, that's enough. You're not going to come in my church, sit on these pews and not change. You're not going to do it. You've been doing this for far too long. So now you're going to have to either choose heaven or hell, and you make that decision on how you're going to go forward. And so during that time period, when I was in college, I made a decision to say, I'm done not talking about the problem. I'm done masking it. And I'm going to choose to understand who is Jesus Christ to me. And so, of course, we learn about various different things. Of course, his grace, his love, his blood that was shed. But one key thing that we always forget is that the same grace that is applied to our lives is applied to others.
Mm-hmm.
So when it comes to your father, you can't grab all that I'm saved. I am saved by the blood of the Lamb. You know, I have all this grace and not apply that same grace to your father. Jesus didn't just die for you. He died for your father also.
Mm-hmm.
So that was a light. That was a light for me, and a light of understanding to say, you can't be selfish in grace. That's not how that works. Nobody has to be right or wrong. They just have to be able to give it, right? So grace is not depending on who is right or wrong. It just has to be given. And that was the requirement. It has to be given. So the first phase was redemption. The second phase was second phase was forgiveness. Once you understand who Jesus Christ is and the fact that he has forgiven you for your sins, it's time for you to forgive your father for his.
Yeah.
We're not saying wipe the slate though. Forgiveness doesn't say that he never did it. God didn't say you need to lie. Lying would be like he never did it. No, God doesn't say that. God says forgive and you'll be forgiven. It's plain and simple. It says exactly like that in the Bible. Forgive and you'll be forgiven. If you want to be forgiven, then guess what you have to do? You have to forgive. And people get wrapped up in forgiveness. Oh my gosh, I'm letting him off the hook. Yes, you are. You're letting him off your hook. Stop trying to nab him every single time something goes wrong from a fatherly perspective. You're trying to nab him, and put him back on the hook to say, you're going to pay for this, right? When Jesus already paid for it all. And so we can't constantly be putting our dads on trial time and time again when Jesus stepped in for our trial. When we sinned and there was a trial and they said somebody has to pay for this, Jesus said, I'll pay for it for you, Candace, right? But we can't keep putting our dad on trial and then Jesus is over here just looking. That's not how that happens. So we need to be sure that we forgive. And forgiveness is a choice. It is definitely a choice. So you choose to forgive. It doesn't have to be this decision making and it be so hard for you. You have to choose it. You choose to forgive and you choose to move on.
I like what you said. You choose the whole process of healing is a choice. We choose to be victims constantly to whatever is going on in our life, or we choose to become victors of whatever is going on in our life. When you were talking about that redemption piece and really just sitting on the pews, I believe a lot of people go to church that way for a long, long time in their lives. Yeah. They don't receive it in college. They don't receive, it's just one of those phases that it happens really, really later in life, but they don't receive that component of grace that's really needed for their lives to change. We sit in church, we're hearers of the word, we're readers of the words, we listeners of the word, but we just can't wrap our mind around doing everything that God has said, doing his word. Because like you say, if it means if we do that, we got to do that until everybody. And the reason we can't do it because we got this one person that's hindering that one little aspect. Like you say, well, then when we run back to drinking or we run back to the sweets of eating or whatever it is, that's our craving to say, okay, God, I heard you, but that's not where I can go today. So we got a lot of fence straddlers out there. We got a foot in church on Sunday, got a foot in church on Wednesday. They got a foot in church for Bible study, for church school, for everything that the church doors open for. They are in attendance in their body, but their spirit has not been in attendance one time because nothing has been pricked in their soul to change.
Right.
And the thing is, I just love what you said. God gave you a choice. He said, heaven or hell. Which one do you want? And it's a choice he gives all of us every time we step in church. Heaven or hell. Which one do you want? And people, I don't really think we understand it. It's not about condemnation. It's not about damnation. It's just about making a choice.
Right.
Making a choice. And you had a choice. You say, okay, I'm going to sit here and try to get God's grace, but I'm not going to give God's grace.
Right.
And it doesn't work like that.
No, it doesn't.
People don't understand. God's grace only comes to us when we are working within the word. And that means actually giving what he says do in order to reach those promises. So when in your book, when or what phase were you in when you realized, okay, I'm starting to get the promises of God now because I've got to this phase in my life?
So I would say the last phase is restoration. Okay. So restoration really comes when you've been vulnerable, when you've been cut all the way down, because everything you thought you know, you don't know. And so now God has really torn you down to who he has created you to be from the very foundation. And now he's building you back up. Because everything that you have put on, from the unforgiveness to the anger, to the bitterness, to the rejection, to the lack of self-worth, you put on all those layers of clothes. And now he stripped you of all of that. And so now he has to put on what his armor is for you to understand exactly who you are. When restoration came around, and for me to really understand who I was and who I am as far as being restored to him, it was a life changer. It was a life changer because of the fact I no longer operated in the principles that weren't of God. I no longer had this mindset that was binding me to my past. Once those chains fell off, there is nothing like freedom. Nothing like freedom. And so when you go through redemption, forgiveness, and restoration, you can change your path, change your direction, go down the healing journey, and ultimately live in your testimony and go back and help others. That's what it's all about. Your testimony is the validation that people need. Sometimes they need to hear that somebody else has done it and that they can do it also. And so once I went through those stages and started really telling my story, which is Invisible Dads, once I started telling my story and speaking on different interviews and radio stations and speaking in person, that is the evidence that I needed that says that this life that I have lived and all the turmoil that I've gone through is worth it, because I'm helping somebody else get back to Jesus Christ, even though they were sitting right in the church pew right next to me.
Yeah. And I think that's one of the things that I want people to get when they show up. This is not regular church when they tune into the airwaves right here. This is not about us just giving a word, giving a message.
Yeah.
This is about giving you some tools so you can take the word. Because the thing is, most people who tune in already have the word in them. They've already been to somebody's church. They've already heard somebody tell them what says the Lord. But for some reason, they never knew how to implement it. And now, like you said, they got some steps. You know what they need to do to start working on it. And that is key. Working the word. I think that people don't understand. If you don't get into the word and start living it, start working it, it is just like you just threw seeds on the top of dirt. And I don't care how much water, because the seeds haven't got deep enough to grow anything. That means those seeds will get trampled. And that is how the words in our life go over us. Ministers, people are ministering to us. People are talking to us. And they just like seeds they throwing at us. And we bag ground. We bag ground. And we blaming it on the pastors. And we jumping up and going from one church to the other church. We saying, because, they don't know how to preach the word. I've been here for all these years. Nothing's changed in my life. Nothing's different. Okay. And you done jumped to all these churches and you blame it on church. You blame it on the woman who talked at the door to you not the right way because your mind wasn't focused. All of these excuses, but it's really, we haven't allowed ourselves to be open to the seeds that are being planted so something can grow in us. And that is very sad. All of the people that are sitting in all of the churches that are built all over the world, the magnificent edifices and temples that we have in this world. And we still have so many people that have not begun to really tap in to that transformation. Because one, they're afraid of being transparent, not necessarily writing the story, but they won't even get up and tell the story.
Right.
They won't write it. They won't tell it. They just won't share it. And they act like it doesn't exist, because you gave some statistics in the beginning, and we know it's an issue. It's an issue. And I know I've know a lot of people who say, okay, my dad wasn't there, or he was there, or we got a lot of adults who thinking about, they have a lot of regrets and they can't have communication with their kids. So it's a lot of that going on, and everybody's sitting in a church house, and they might not sit in a church house, but they are giving them themselves the label, I'm a Christian. I believe in God. And so when does your belief become action?
Yes. Actionable. Yeah. Every word that you get has to be actionable. You have to put the word to the test. You have to put the steps one in front of the other in order for you to get to yield the result. Like you said, pastors are preaching messages, but if we hear it and then go out and do nothing, then the message does not apply. It's only when we take the steps. What are those actionable steps that you can take? When you talk about certain people just ignoring the issues that they have, I used to be one of those people. In that stage, I call that stage denial. So you're in the denial stage. I don't need a father. It doesn't affect me any. And here's my premise to that. It definitely affects you. I can definitely tell you exactly how it's affecting you. Your attitude, even the way that you talk to people at work, it is affecting everything about you. Your relationships, 1,000%. So it does affect you. Don't be in denial. You really have to uncover it. The only way you can heal is that you have to unveil what the problem is. You have to unveil it. You cannot heal what you conceal. That's what Dr. Jasmine Scalark said. You can't heal what you conceal. You can't. You cannot heal it because you won't talk about it.
Yeah, that's when you said that word conceal, it made me think about makeup on women. How we conceal when we get a dark spot or when we get a pimple or something. We put that concealer on, and that is how we feel like those wounds are. But the thing is, the wound is going to hurt even more because every time you have to wipe that concealer off, every time you have to remove that Band-Aid, it just rips another level. Because it reminds me like those Band-Aids, it rips your hairs, it rips your skin. So it's more damage than you're causing to cover it up.
Right.
Versus, okay, now I got to pull a Band-Aid I done had on me for 20 years. Imagine how that adhesive is going to just rip so much skin and everything else off. That's just really gross and nasty if you think about it, all the dirt. But that mental image, and that is how our soul is. It's just like we hid it so deep down. Our soul just has become so nasty, journey, and affected by something we just would address. And I really grieve when people don't want to talk about those issues. And I know in society we like to say it's so many people dealing with it, it's really not that big a deal, because it's such a big number. But the thing is, if we get into groups and deal with it when the numbers are smaller and make it a problem and make it an issue and get some solutions, I think we would not get to the big statistics that we have, because there are a lot of areas of healing and growth that people really need to step into before they get out of control.
Exactly. So the statistic just came out recently that 26 out of the 27 school shooters were fatherless. So we need to catch this. We need to catch this now. And like you said, there's no bashing of fathers. I don't stand for bashing of fathers. I support fathers 1,000%. We need them. But I also am focused on the people that are fatherless, because ultimately they are raising the children, especially the women. The women are raising the sons. They're raising the daughters. How are you raising your children so that they don't ultimately become parents that ultimately leave or have a child with somebody that will ultimately leave? or that is too, specifically for the daughters, that is too independent to understand that a father is needed, like you said, to understand that a father is needed and that is the foundation. So really just helping the fatherless is very, very important so we can stop this now. And we need to hit it at all fronts, which is why specifically I focus more on fatherless women than anything, because there's a gap. Once I finished writing Invisible Dad and it was released and it went to international best-selling book in one day, once that happened, about a month or two later, actually God told me exactly what I was supposed to be doing. I always wanted to understand, God, what's my purpose? What's my purpose? What's my purpose? And God wouldn't talk to me. Like, he wouldn't say, I'm just like, I know you hear me. Like, what? You know, everybody wants their piece of the pie. Like, God, in the kingdom, what am I in charge of? Like, what can I do to get people to the kingdom? And he would not tell me. And it wasn't until after I wrote Invisible Dad, he was like, finally, I can tell you, you're going to bring my daughters back to me. And so now that is my mission. I am bringing his daughters back to him. And what I thought that meant is that people that were outside of the church, I would bring them inside the church and get them to Jesus. But now I understand that it's not the people that is outside, although those are a factor, it's the people that are inside the church that need to get back to Jesus. And
yeah, the ones he's calling my children already, my daughters.
They already my children. Exactly.
Right, claiming to be my sheep. Yeah.
Exactly. So that is my mission, is to help the fatherless. And I really focus on that because I really want this to pivot. I really want this to change. I know that when we change this, everything changes. When fatherlessness disappears, everything changes. Everything.
And the key that you're working on is the next generation. So it's not a cycle. Like you said, it's ending that curse so we don't feel like independent women. And then also because we have to watch out, like you were trying to have that conversation with your mother and her saying, oh, well, you just don't need him. Instead of sitting down and explaining to you, I understand you were a child, but it's taking you through something so you would really understand better what was going on. So you didn't have that craving for something that was bad. You know, I think a lot of times we think, okay, that's an adult conversation. We don't need to have that with our kids. We don't need to tell them what's going on. Okay, tell them that you made a bad choice in choosing them a daddy. Just tell, I made a bad choice. Okay, this is how this is going to be. We as women, we're going to take our responsibility in whatever happened, because for some of the fatherlessness issue, but then also for the fathers that are present, not necessarily you married to them, but they're being active in these kids. Like, we got to quit bashing these men just because they didn't marry us.
Right. I mean, that's a huge problem in itself, right? Yeah. Because we always want to wave this independent flag, but are you really independent if you have to wave it so much? Yeah. That's the key right there. Like, we already know that we can handle things, but we are not to dehumanize or disrespect or chop men down just so we can build ourselves up. That's not what this is about. We need each other. It's Adam and Eve. It wasn't just Adam. When God came into God, he was like, it's not good for man to be alone. So Eve came along. It was the both of them, not just one. And so we are not to just chop men down because we want to be so high and mighty. It's very, very important that we support them, because there's we both have problems in the world. You know what I mean? Men and women, we both have problems in the world. So we need to be supporters of each other. And like you said, also, when it comes to choosing a father for your children, sometimes the choice that you made is not the best choice. Also, for my mom's sake, she had parents. So she didn't understand from a fatherless perspective, like, what does that even mean? I have my mom and my dad in my life, so she didn't really understand what I went through. And also just making sure that, and I tell this to my clients and to anyone, if you can find out the background story from more than just your mother, if you can find it out from your father, if you can find it out from your aunt or somebody else that was at the scene of the whole entire story, if you can find out the background story, it makes it a little bit easier to handle. Not that it's okay, Not that we're going to forget, not that it wipes any type of slate clean or any of that type of thing. But if you can find out the ebbs and flows of what happened during that time, it can make it a little bit easier. Let me give you an example. For my father owned a hair salon. His family's business was booming. I mean, they were doing the likes of Shaka Khan and Oprah, and they were on top. Well, by the time I was 2 years old, his mother, who was the matriarch, his father wasn't alive. His mother, who was the glue that held everyone together, she passed away. In the family business, they didn't have enough money for that. And so they liquidated everything, and then that money disappeared. And so my dad not only didn't have his mother, he didn't have the family business, and the money was gone. So he didn't feel like he could support me and actually add to my life. So my dad disappeared. So that foundation story and that whole dynamic of how the events occurred, now I can understand how the pressures of life was so heavy on him, because he didn't understand who Jesus Christ was to him and how he redeemed him and how to have faith during that time. So it doesn't make it right, but at least I have the background that he didn't just turn around and leave. That there were some things that happened during that time. So I always say to you, make sure that you try and get the story, and not just from your mother. You need to make sure that you get angles of the story, all angles if you can, just to understand, just to give you some clarity, some closure as to what happened during that time.
Yeah, I like that. Multiple perspectives.
Yeah.
Because, of course, most people are always telling a story to make themselves feel like they are the winning side, on the winning side. Nobody's ever going to tell you a story and tell you they were the villain.
Right.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Most people are not going to tell a story and make themselves as the villain. So they're definitely going to make it sound all nice and good. But I like what you said. It gave clarity. It gave closure. It didn't necessarily fix it, but it allowed you to understand way back then in his young mind what he was going through, and his pressures of not understanding. And that was just one more pressure that we was like, okay, this is too many bags and I can't even carry me right now.
Right. Exactly. That's exactly what occurred. Ultimately, I would actually meet my father, talk to him actually 20 years later. So my dad left at 2 years old. He came back when I was 21 years old, and it was December. My birthday was in January. So it was almost 20 years later that I received a random out of the blue phone call from my father. So I can give you both perspectives, what to do when you're fatherless, but also if your father is back in your life, or if you want him back in your life, what to do then. Because when my father came back in my life, I thought it was going to be roses and white picket fences. I was thinking like, yes, we're going to have a relationship. We're going to be back, father-daughter bond. And it was a disappointment. Like, I set myself up for failure. And what I mean by that is that you can't get 20 years back.
Amen.
And because I was his only child. I am his only child. And because of that, I'm the one that made him a father, right? So because I'm the one who made him a father and he has not been a father for 20 years, when we start having conversations, it's like we're business buddies. Like we're old-time friends and not father and daughter, because he doesn't understand how to be one. And so my expectations were so high that it left me disappointed. So another key when it comes to fatherlessness, and if you ever meet your father or ever get back in a relationship with them, make sure that your expectations are where they can meet you at. So make sure you're level in line, because my expectations were up here and he could only deliver down here. I was disappointed. So if your expectations are up here and that's all he can deliver is here, you're out of line. You have to meet him where he's at, where it is sufficient, so you won't be disappointed at what he can deliver to you, what he can give to you as a parent at this stage of your life.
That's beautiful that you said that, because God always meets us where we are.
Yes.
God always meets us where we are. And I believe That is why it's so important to know who you are, because when you do that and we understand the word and how God loves us, when we understand how God loves us, that's how we're supposed to love other people. We really can do the walk a lot easier. But when we don't understand God's love, our love for everybody else is just really out of whack.
Yes,
Really
yes. That's why I'm so appreciative of God and when he brought my dad back into my life, because I was going through the phases and I had already forgiven him. So I was going through that forgiveness phase and I had forgiven him. And right after I forgiven him, that's when my dad came back into my life. So I say, make sure that if you are harboring bitterness or feeling rejected or feeling less than, make sure that you heal yourself before trying to reach out to your father. Because here's the thing, we don't know what your father will say. We don't know what he will do. And we don't need to really have our feelings be so concentrated on what his reaction is, right?
Right.
We don't need to do that. We need to understand who we are in Jesus Christ and say, I am a child of God. And because of that, these are the steps that I'm going to do to heal and to be healed by Jesus. And once I do that, that's when I'm going to be able to reach out to my father, because I would have already forgiven him and I can have those conversations and be open-hearted out of humility and not out of anger and not out of resentment, so that you can actually start it off right if you really want a relationship with him.
Yeah, God's timing is very important.
Yes.
Because if he had came in your life before you had got to the part of forgiveness, you probably would not be still in a relationship right now, because it would have went a different way. Because
it went south. It would have went south real quick.
Because you would have been expecting him to do something different.
Exactly. Right.
So that's important, that we understand that we have to reach a certain place in order to embrace another healthy relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And as you see, that relationship goes into another relationship, because we're not going to let another man come into our life and be a father to our children, because we didn't have one. So we didn't need one. We didn't have one. So we trying to step up and be mama and daddy in the house, just like our mothers did. So we must be careful of that. Tell the listeners where they can reach out and touch you. That way they can connect. And I'm gonna even put some men on you, because the thing is, I want everybody to get healed. I want them to buy the invisible dad, because the invisible dad is for anybody. And I'm gonna say this, even if your dad was at home in the house and present, and you feel like you did not get something, get the book so you can go through the stages. And that is what you need to do in order to reach that point. I believe that you will be healed, because I know you have to go through a process in order to get to that place. But God can use you and actually open up for you to have healthy relationships. So I know you coach women. Let me tell you, there are a bunch of men that get lost because we don't feel like men get caught in that emotional baggage place. They have it. We just tell them to suppress it. Be a man, be strong, don't deal with it. But I believe there are some men out there who will be blessed by this book. And when they buy it, they will have better relationships with their wives. They will have better relationships with their kids, because they will work through that process that they need to have in their life. Because when you make somebody a ghost and when you make somebody invisible in your life, that means you're not really dealing with the issues that they brought up in your life. So I want everybody to heal. I want everybody to get to that point. And we've been talking, our time is just like, bam, all out the window. So you all, what we've been talking about, these daddy issues, but ultimately we got to allow our Heavenly Father to heal us and remind us of who we are in Christ. And I know a lot of people say that, not understanding what does that mean, who I am in Christ. And that means how he loves me, means how he expects me to love others. And that is how that relationship is to work with everybody in our lives. And it begins with us. When we realize how God loves us, then we can love ourselves and value ourselves. And we're not seeking that validation. That's how we're able to forgive people and let things go. Because I'm not offended by what you do. I've already forgiven you. I don't take offense. I've given you grace on that issue. we're good.
Right.
And so that's what I want everybody to leave with, God's grace. So if you leave with God's grace, that means you got to be able to give God's grace to somebody else. So I appreciate you joining us. I hope people tap in and really get the Invisible Dad book and actually began the healing process. So I thank you all for joining me on another Tuesday night. And there is a healing show that's coming right on behind this. So if you all need the next steps to healing, I'm not sure what she's talking about, but healing is what is going on right after this show. So I am here to tell you, have your best relationship with God, yourself, and then others. Get your order right so your relationships can be in proper alignment. And I will see you all next Tuesday, same time, same place. And have a great evening.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
A second chance.